Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
What if one of your best friends suddenly grew tentacles and tried to chew off your face? What limb would you blow off first? Those are the types of decisions you'll have to make in EA's upcoming DeadSpace. We're here at EA, and we got a chance to talk to some of the developers to get your questions answered.
There's always a surprise around the corner because it's a scary game, and because of the nature of our enemies, they're pretty extreme and crazy, and you're not quite sure what they're going to do.
It's not pure survival horror in the fact that you may be used to. We've thrown a little bit more of the action in, but we're definitely remaining true to that genre. And we also wanted to carve out our own niche, so we really wanted to put our own stamp on it.
There is a fair amount of splattering.
There's some splatter. You would describe it as a fest.
No, not at all.
It's a small party with just a couple people, some
fair
tea.
enough, and then some splattering.
The Ishimura, the ship that you're on, has been decimated both from the inside as well as the outside. And there are places where gravity has failed, or where oxygen has failed, or where you can actually see out into open space.
That feeling of being isolated, of being alone, space is about the most hostile environment you can be in, and then you put on top of that murderous aliens. It's a great experience. The creatures are pretty crazy, I think, and pretty disturbing.
What we tried to do was get that sort of a relatability still there. So a lot of monster makeup stuff, they're just sort of all screwed up. What you want to read is like, wow, I know what happened to that guy.
There are some tenets of the survival horror genre that we wanted to make sure we followed.
So if you put a game like, say, Condemned or Silent Hill on one end of the scale, where not much of an action game at all, but very, very scary and very moody and everything. And on the other end of the scale, you have something like Doom 3, which is much more, pure action with some nods to being scary. We probably fall somewhere in the middle there.
We wanted to keep that feeling of, oh my God, I don't have a lot of ammo and I'm vulnerable. Any enemy is a real threat. But if I'm clever, I can make my way out of this. Like those types of feelings, that's great. And those are the types of things from survival horror that we're trying to keep.
One of the things we learned really quickly was if you do the same kind of scare too many times, it wears off. So we had to mix it up constantly. Anything from foreboding, wondering what's coming up around the corner, to something suddenly jumping out at you. We had to pace it out. You can't just constantly be scaring the player. It just wears off and you become immune to it. So moments of feeling safe, and then moments of feeling, terrified.
Resident Evil, that was a huge inspiration. All the biggies, Silent Hill, System Shock 2, I could go on, a lot of different stuff.
We actually also drew from a lot of science fiction, as you can imagine, and a lot of horror.
I'm a big fan of 80s slasher films, and so we have actually some elements in the game, sort of that feeling of the unstoppable killer.
John Carpenter's The Thing, the way that it's not just scary aliens, but there's something relatable and scary about The Thing. The feeling of the first Alien movie, that kind of dread.
Event Horizon really gave us that feeling of what would horror look like in space. And anything that really felt like it was grounded in reality.
Like the lights on our spaceship are based on dentist lights. Because like when you're in that dentist chair, right, and he swings that in front of you and you're kind of by it, and it's just uncomfortable.
We feel like a lot of it has, that little bit of influence drawn, but it also gives us our own little brand of survival horror. It was really liberating and refreshing when we were working on DeadSpace to find out that there were almost no limits here, because we actually thought we were going to bump our nose into a couple of walls. We thought, so EA, we've done a couple M-rated games in the past, but this is a little different.
Anymore. Yeah.
And it was really, really great to just have everyone say, you know what, take it as far as you need to. And we had a vision for DeadSpace. It's not gratuitous violence. That the violence that's there and the blood and the guts that's there is our way of realizing that vision.
From the beginning, we were like, this is definitely M-rated, because like PG-13 horror, no one's really interested in that, right? So we knew we were going hardcore from the beginning. And EA sort of like let us go for like 6 months. Okay, let's see what you got. Can you scare me? And what they saw was, it's not just like a splatterfest. Like some games have come out that are just sort of about, like his head got cut up, and there's blood everywhere. And what they realized was we needed that mature content to achieve the gameplay that we wanted. Obviously, I mean, like, part of the game is this sort of strategic dismemberment, and it's pretty hard to do strategic dismemberment with a T for teen game, right? So they saw that we weren't doing it to shock people, we weren't doing it as a gimmick, we were doing it as the core part of the value, that this was mature entertainment. And so, yes, it's an M game, and yes, there was skepticism at the start, but when they saw what we were doing, and then when they saw that it had real value, and the M was part of that, then there really hasn't been too much trouble.
It's awesome to be able to be at a place where they have a broad spectrum of products, and that means that we can take chances on those really, really M-rated games, and Dead Space is a really, really M-rated game.
Though I know not what you are, twinkle